welcome to part 2 of conversation with Larry. I think it was great. I learned a ton. I always do when I talk to Larry, so it was really a lot of fun. And thank you again for joining me, my friend, and having this conversation. All right, the next kind of topic is about leadership management. So I'm interested in your approach to managing, motivating your folks.
Yeah.
Kind of go from there, wherever
Sure.
you want to start.
Yeah, I think a lot of people misunderstand leadership and management, both of them. Those are definitely two separate things. But a lot of people feel like it's a role or a title or a reporting relationship. And over my career, I tried to ensure that everybody understands that it's not about your title or your role or the reporting relationship. It's about inspiring people to want to follow you. And to me, that's all leadership is. It's that simple. It's saying and doing the things that cause others to want to follow. And a lot of what I feel like I have to do to be in a position to do that is certainly live what I'm saying. I can't say one thing and do something else. That's inauthentic, and authenticity is probably the most important part of this. And I'm very fortunate that I'm a good match for the company. I mean, I guess I influenced the company a little bit over the years too to make it a match.
I think more than a little bit, yeah.
But it's a lot easier when you truly believe what you're doing. So the employee ownership aspect of AIS, I was passionate about that. I was really fortunate. Right out of college, I worked for a company, and they introduced me to that concept. We had a stock plan, and I have a bunch of stories about those founders. It's actually how we met, was through one of those founders of that business.
That's true.
I have a lot of stories about those folks, and I just learned early on. It felt good to be part of that, and that became ingrained in the culture. So I truly believe in that. When people hear me talk about it, they sometimes say, "Well, why are you so passionate about it?" I said, "Because I'm passionate about it. It's real." So I think inspiring and leading the troops means taking the time to help them understand the greater picture of what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it the way we're doing it, and being open to feedback about it, and then adjusting course based on that feedback, because that's what I want them to do as well.
And that's leadership. That was more leadership.
Yeah.
What's management?
Management, my take on that is that's the part I'm not as good at. That's the part of putting the structure in place to work through the milestones to get to the goals. That's more the day-to-day, where is this at, where is that at, tracking, coming up with detailed plans, and looking for where things are going to go off the rails. But being able to see that, 20 cars ahead, not the Nissan in front of us, but that 18-wheeler up ahead that's clogging up the left lane right now, having the view on that, looking that far out too, is part of management to me. I think that's a little bit more detail-oriented than leadership, and I guess I would say that is a little bit more about those things that leadership is less about, the roles and reporting.
Do you have someone, a yin to your yang, that does more of the management and helps you, whether you're stronger in the leadership?
For sure.
Kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a lot of people. Our CFO, for example, when we're working together on a project, he's really the one that keeps it on the rails more than I do.
Yeah.
He's good at that, and I almost kind of look across the board, and all of my direct reports seem to be better at that than I am, which is good. It's a vital skill. We have great project managers in the company too, and every once in a while we'll pull one of them in to just manage a project that we're doing internally in the company, because I know I need help with that. I get lost. I get bored, quite frankly. That's not the thing that motivates me day to day. So I know I'm not as equipped to do it.
Do you think that that's a function of that's because that's your role now? Because clearly you were a successful everything before this. You were the COO, and before that you were project manager, whatever, right? Program manager.
Yeah.
So do you think that's a function of now?
Could be.
Or age?
It's also what I enjoy more. Even my time as a project manager was not always great, because I was wandering. I was always looking to grow and talk to customers and get excited. I never felt like I was great at that job. I thought I was adequate at it. It was not what I was passionate about. I have this conversation all the time with employees. companies who are thinking about switching tracks. Instead of being a project manager, we call them account management. We call it account management and project management, two different job families. And account management is managing the relationship with the customer, the ideation of new things, and it's not a clean break. It's not like our project managers don't do that too. There's a lot of crossover, and people talk about that all the time, and I view them as siblings, if you will. They're lateral moves, moving from one to the other. It's not a promotion to go from one to the other. Which one do you like and enjoy better? Which one are you more passionate about? And for me, it was account management, not project management. So, yeah, probably a little bit about the role today, but I think I'm also in the role because that's what I enjoy. That's what I gravitate towards.
All right, someday we'll talk about how we do that. Like we merge them and confuse them, and it's difficult for us to. I tried to separate into what you do a little bit, and we struggled organizationally because our history wasn't that.
We talk about this all the time. I feel like we're bringing them back together and pulling them apart. It's like it's like two lines that keep moving like this but never touch, and maybe they should. We question it all the time. In fact, I just put that out just last week. I was talking to our managing directors about this. Just because this is what we've done and it's how we've gotten where we are doesn't mean it's what we should keep doing. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday was Wednesday. I was talking to James about the future vision of that. What are your ideas on that?
Yeah.
He's got lots of ideas on it, so we might change it up.
There's mentoring for you, one topic, like how's that gone for you? But in your organization first, do you guys have a specific mentoring program, or is it organic in nature that you just try to set it? Like, do you do anything with mentoring?
Yes, to both of those.
Okay.
It's not where I want it to be. It's an area I'm still trying to improve.
It's hard.
We do, our Octo solution teams has a formalized mentoring program.
Okay.
Where they are very structured. And I think that works really well for the people that participate in that. Outside of that, and that covers about 100 of our 750-ish people. Outside of that, it's very organic, and it's not as scaled as it should be. But there is a third component to it, and it's the training that we do. We created something that we call AISU a while ago, maybe 7 years ago. And at least every other week there's training provided that anybody in the company can join. We do various things. We have deep dives. We have level up sessions that are only 30, 40 minutes. Think of it like a brown bag lunch session where you just listen to people talk about what they learned and how they do what they do. So that fills some of that gap, but I would like to improve that so that anyone that raises their hand and says, I want to be assigned someone to help me in whatever area, the business responds and ensures they get that. Right? We're not where I want to be with that yet.
How about you and your being mentored? Did you seek out mentor? I had a conversation with another guy when we were talking about folks that say, I never really had a mentor, and I always thought how sad that was because you got to go get your own, is my view. What's your view?
Yeah, I totally agree. In fact, I attribute a lot of the success and maybe less failing to the people I had around me. When we were other than a small business, I was teaming AIS with a lot of small businesses, and in doing that, just like the customers, I talked about asking questions. I would meet generally with the CEOs and founders of these smaller businesses. They were smaller than AIS, right? We had already graduated from that category. So oftentimes the teaming agreements were worked out between me and the founder. And I didn't let the relationship end there. I asked questions and I learned from them because they're running a business. I'm running a team. So I would learn a ton from them. And they would get something out of it too, because we had gotten to where they were trying to go. If we're at 40 million and they're at 10 million, well, I've encountered some things they haven't yet encountered. So I was able to bring that back. So early in my career, those were informal mentors. And eventually we started going to dinner together and forming a bit of a group that met monthly, every other month. And then at some point, our then CEO said, hey, you should join this networking group I'm part of. And it was Renaissance Executive Forum, REF. And now I have that peer group to lean on. I've been in that group for, I think, 7 or 8 years now. And they're that trusted circle of people that I can count on. And you and I both attend CEO boardroom too, which is another group. It's a bigger group in a slightly different format. So I feel like I've got a lot of mentors, but my takeaway is twofold. One, you got to go, that's work. And it's your own time that you put into that. And secondly, you can't just take, you have to give. If you're not giving, you're not going to get. And nobody likes a one-sided relationship.
We're talking about mentorship. And you were kind of saying, I think, that mentorship for you has been a team sport, I guess, as opposed to, I've got this one big mentor.
Yeah, for sure, it has been. Today it's, sort of you evolve through these phases. The peer groups really are peer groups. You and I are in one together. And we talk offline all the time outside of that peer group. In fact, we rarely even see each other at the peer group anymore.
Right.
Then there's our board of directors. We built our board of directors specifically. I wanted to cover my weak spots. I wanted a former CEO on the board. I wanted a former government director on the board, director of an agency, I mean. I wanted people that have been in the positions that I have not been in, including CEO when our board was first constituted. So I have a 7-member board. I'm one of them. And that gives me 6 other folks that I can also lean on. I have our investment partners are there. Their staff is there. So I have a wide variety of people that I go to for mentorship. And they're not all in the business either. Sometimes you reach out a little bit. Our customers, some of those are past customers, relationships I still have there. I consider them people that teach me. And again, hopefully mutually beneficial. I'm bringing something to the table for them as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think a lot of people think it's, I have a mentor for life or something like that, and that hasn't been my experience either.
I think
for a lot of reasons, you outgrow them or you do different things, and
Yeah, and I think some people probably do have that, and it's great for both parties. It's not the way I've experienced it. I feel like I need to learn from lots of different people with lots of different perspectives, because these jobs are not black and white. They're all kinds of shades of gray in between, and just because you've seen it before doesn't mean the same play is going to work again. So they're complicated jobs with complicated decision making, and it's all a balancing act. And the more perspective you can get, I think the more well-rounded you become. I will tell you that whenever I'm talking to somebody that comes to me for advice, sometimes they'll use that question, well, what would you do? And I'll tell them, this is what I would do, but you're not me. So don't do a poor impression of me. You should do what you think you ought to do, not what I would do. Because you have different strengths and weaknesses than I do.
Which goes back to the thing I said, I agree with you most on, which was, it's about being authentic. And if they're trying to be you, they're not being authentic.
And I learned that by doing what I saw my manager do when I first got into the position he was in. And I was doing a poor impression of him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't natural. And people see through that. It's not a good look. It's not going to be effective, and it's not fun.
No, you're right.
Okay.
It's not any of those things. All right, you want to talk about industry leadership?
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go. No, I don't. So I'll start off with just kind of a risk-reward thing. How far do you lean forward in trying to establish or provide leadership in industry without getting yourself too far out there?
When you say too far out there, I think of the time commitment is what comes to mind. My responsibility is to AIS first, my family first and foremost, of course, but AIS, and you got to stay focused on that. Now, the industry things that I do bring value to AIS. It gets our name out there. I learn. And again, you got to give to get. So there's a delicate balance of time commitment to that. So I think that's the most important part. I think others think about it as the competitive nature of our business. How much do you want to give back to industry to help everybody rise? I definitely lean out on that. I'm not worried about giving things away to the competition. I just don't think it works that way. I don't think you hoard knowledge and not share it. It's just not good for anybody in our business. The industry, you hear these terms a lot in federal, co-opetition, frenemy, however you want to put it, because sometimes we team and sometimes we compete. I think we've probably done that.
Yep.
And it's fine. And commercial, I think there's less camaraderie there. I think it's so natural in the government world that there's more camaraderie. And I've noticed certain people have their guard up, and others, you and I mean, we are really transparent with each other, and it saves us time. Does it give away some competitive advantage? Maybe, but we should make that in some other way. So I do try to stay active in the community, in industry, talk about the peer groups that we're in, try to present from time to time if I have some knowledge about something that my peers may not, or some experience. More often than knowledge is what I'm sharing. I do think it's important to give back that way. Most of the people that I mentioned as mentors, that's what they're doing for me. And what was done for me, I need to do for others.
Pass it on, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And by the way, I get as much as I give in those industry events. What I would say that I would like to do a little bit more of is joining a more organized approach to that. I just joined an organization, and I just volunteered to be on 2 committees because I don't think I've done enough of that in a formalized way. It's always been organic and informal relationships, and I think I need to get involved in a little bit of that more organized approach to it.
Interesting. Okay, so let me just finish up or move on to just the company level part of it. Risk reward balances and decisions that you make in the company. Do you have any particular company or Larry version of how you balance that risk reward when you make a decision? Do you do a decision tree? I mean, what do you do?
I think about the impact of success and the impact of failure. I was just doing this morning on a call, and there's a certain level we can go to on this opportunity we have where the risk is worth the reward. If we go beyond that point, it's not. And so I do think about that. I've become a little bit more careful as the company has gotten a little bit more mature and grown, that in the past I felt like I was shooting from the hip too much, and it worked out most of the time. But now I've gotten much more methodical about it. I want to think through how big of a failure, let me rephrase that. What would be the impact of the failure? What's the size of that impact? If it's negligible, yeah, take the risk all day. If it's potentially catastrophic to the company, no, we're going to really think that through. And I'm probably going to collaborate with my board and our executive team to make sure that it's a sound decision, because anybody can get caught up in it. Deal fever is what I usually refer to it as, whether it's an M&A deal, a teaming deal, a bid. Do you end up getting so committed to the deal that you forget to pull back and say, should we do this? So I don't have a formal way of doing it. I think it's a very collaborative process. Ultimately, just another one popped in my head. We had a situation where our team was divided on what to do, and I knew that this was my decision to make because there was significant risk in moving forward with the approach that I wanted to do. And I heard everybody out, and 2 or 3 people felt like we should not do it, and 2 or 3 people felt like we should do it. And ultimately, part of this is your gut, because your gut is your wisdom gained from experience.
Yep, 100%.
Helping you think through this again. It's not, I may not have seen this exact scenario, but I'm weighing that bad outcome and saying, no, it's worth the risk because the upside is there for us. I'll say a more general approach. Maybe the easiest example I could say that I wouldn't mind sharing is priming or subbing. Subbing might vastly improve our win probability, but priming is a bigger reward for the company.
Yep.
And the consequence of priming, going after it as a prime and losing, versus going in after it as a sub and having a higher win probability, Well, it's not that dramatic because we don't have the work now. It's not like we're losing something we had. And there are times where I've said to the team, I'd rather lose as a prime than win as a sub. That's an easy decision for me.
So we're in the conversation on one right now. That topic.
Prime person.
Doesn't matter what the vehicle is, right? But no, it's about whether you're going to prime or not, and whether if you do prime, we might be on the team. And it's real, and this is why I want to ask.
AIS and IPTA.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
cool.
AIS and IPTA. We're talking about one, and you guys are deciding whether you're going to prime. So you're in the middle of this discussion. I'm leading towards asking you how you stay motivated, because I'm going to tell you how I feel about it. I'm like, my response when my guys talked to me about it was, well, shit, if they're not going to prime, why don't we? But we're not going to win. Like, we're too small. You know what I mean? Like that. But I get caught up in being like, what motivates me is being excited about something and moving it forward. And then when I make, so for me, it's being motivated about it. You had a different word. Deal fever. So deal fever.
Yeah.
And then when I decide not to, I say facetiously, I decided to be an adult about it.
I think you're right about that, because the problem with going after things you can't win, if you truly believe you can't win, and first of all, you probably won't, your team's not going to be motivated enough to put their best foot forward.
Right.
If you think you can win, and the odds are long, at least your team is motivated to put the best foot forward. But it can be disheartening to work on something that you have no...
The problem, I always think we can
confidence.
win, but I mean, unless there's a mechanical reason, like specifically you can't, but there's an element of the team has to believe it too.
I'm like you, and my team knows it, because I'm always looking for a reason to get the yes on everything.
Yeah, right.
And usually the people around me will say, okay, are you okay if I drop these other 2 or 3 things that you also care just as much about last week? That's their superpower.
Put you in a corner.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I appreciate them doing it, because I need that help sometimes.
So does it become an issue? Because I want to ask, how do you stay motivated when it's a bunch of no's? Because sometimes it is. Is that even an issue?
It is. And I get very frustrated when that happens. Tell me what we can do. Stop telling me what we can't do.
Right.
And to me, that's... I'll say I don't react well to that.
I don't either.
There are times where you have to take some shots. The difference between can't win versus may not win is there's an enormous gulf there. There's very few things you can't win. So it's a very...
You know what those things are, in my view, in our business, because you don't have the requisite past performance, and you're not allowed to use subs past performance.
Sure.
Done.
Right. You can't.
That's
win that.
different than, we could get partner. Why don't you call AIS? Maybe they've got a past performance. Maybe we could do that. Like how much work have we put into trying to get to win?
Find a path to yes.
Right.
And then decide if you want to do it or not. Don't just tell me it can't be done. Tell me what it would take to get to yes, and then we have a decision to make. Okay, is that worth doing? And what else can't we do because we're going to do that? Or if you need more investment, okay, what does that mean for the business?
So for you, does that become a form of frustration, or do you just view that differently? It's not frustrating, it's part of the job.
No, it's very frustrating to me. And I get probably not my finest moments are usually when we're in that type of situation where I feel like there's organizational resistance to doing something.
Yeah.
That's probably the most tense I get in the business. I can accept losing. I can't accept not trying, and pessimism. It goes back to that tyranny of cynicism. It can kill a business to me, and it destroys enthusiasm.
I agree.
Yeah.
But somewhere in there is like, because you have these real realist people that are sometimes right too. And somewhere in there's that balance where you're a crazy idiot that bids on anything and wastes resources and all that. And you don't want to be that either, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So you have to check yourself. And I think we both know our weaknesses in this area. So good, you're accounting for that. So if the rest of the room is telling you, stop, what are you doing? As long as you know and trust those people, well, then you know you're making a poor decision. But at times you're going to make the decision anyway.
Right. We're gonna let the car auto park and then take a break.
Sounds good. One of my favorite features of the Tesla.
I know, right? That's crazy. Charge this baby up, and then we'll keep going afterwards.
Sounds good.
You got any advice for entrepreneurs, business owners, people in business, people thinking about going into business, however you want to tackle it?
Yeah, I think the approach I would tackle is people also in business now as an employee. I think of it as intra-preneurship is the word, where you don't necessarily have to go start your own business to create a business or to try your hand at it. So what I mean by that, and again, I'll use the AIS model that we talked about earlier, these franchises of AIS, if you want to have one of those, you can do that within the business itself by being entrepreneurial or intrapreneurial and not having to raise the capital and not having to learn how to do payroll and get health insurance and have human resources and all these support systems that you need or contract people. But if you go out there and you sell an idea and you build a team to implement it and you operate it, you essentially are flexing that entrepreneurial muscle. So I would encourage people to try that first where you already are. At AIS, I hope we reward people with the equity employee ownership that we talked about, that'll be good for them. You, obviously the upside's not as high. You don't own the business. You operate the business within the business. You have great incentive to create some wealth for your family, but you have a lot less risk. In fact, almost none of the risk. So you can do it where you already are. And again, in a company like AIS, I aspire to create a place where you do it and you don't have to leave to feel that entrepreneurial spirit pulsating through you and getting some of the rewards of what you do. So that's one way to do it. To do that, though, I think the biggest piece of advice I wish somebody had given me sooner is step out of your comfort zone. You have to get a little uncomfortable generally to get where you need to be to make it happen. We all have our strengths and weaknesses and the things that we like to do and the things we don't like to do. I wish I had known a little earlier to lean into those things that I wasn't as confident in. So failing daily, sometimes you got to fail first to learn how to do it right. So you don't want to fail when the stakes are high. You need some practice runs at it. And I think I've felt over the years developing that realization of the need to take some swings before the at-bats really matter, so that when they really matter, it's not the first time that you're doing it.
Makes a lot of sense. Do you think that there's anything to that saying about, that whole saying about working on your business instead of in your business?
Absolutely. It's a phrase we used a lot in the early days of the transition of AIS into a growth company. It's hard to do because generally we don't have the resources to do one or the other. You have to do both. And I think you just have to have the right lens on when you're doing one or the other. When you're out with clients, helping, working in the business, be in the business. Don't forget what you're doing. You're serving the client. And when you're back in your office working on the business, switch those glasses out so that you're looking at things through the right lens. And there's more in common than different. I don't think it's that stark of a difference, but both need time and attention. And as you have more resources to spend more time working on the business, and by resources I mean time, money, talent, you can truly spend more time working on the business because you've got other people working in the business. And that's what I meant earlier, where you're in the growth journey, you're trying to move away from individual heroics to building sustainable, enduring, systematic success and scalability. That's part of what gives you the time to work on the business, not just in the business.
So it sounds to me like you do both, right? You separate it and maybe the percentages change. So I'm working with the customer, client, working whatever, coding yourself, whatever.
Yeah.
In the business, and then there's moments, might be an hour a day for a while you're on it. What are you doing now? Like, if it's as simple as on it or in it, what do you do now? How much time do you spend working on it?
I definitely don't write code that lends on our customers' systems anymore, much to the relief of everybody at AIS. It's been a long time since I did that. I still do code a little bit in the background.
Really?
But not...
Interesting.
I'm not working on customer deliverables anymore. I would actually say I'm slightly out of balance. I would like to spend more time in the business than I do today. I do want more customer face time. It's been a challenge in a post-COVID world. You know, we're on the road together here. I used to be on the road a lot visiting customers in their offices, but now the customers are scattered all over the world, mostly the United States, of course, but it's very difficult to meet with them organically. Everything has to be a planned meeting, and I would like to increase that so that I'm spending more like maybe 60-40% of my time in the business versus on the business. I would say now I'm probably 80-20 on the business. Part of that is making the decision to do it, though. You can, in this seat, you can be lulled into only working on the business and losing touch with the customers if you are not intentional about staying connected. So
I wonder how you define on or in, and I'll just for an example, because I was thinking, I guess I don't know, so it matters, but for that conversation, but I really focus on relationships with customers, partners, and employees. And I feel like that's my primary job. And I'm wondering in this conversation, just to myself, I guess, like, I'm not sure if that's on or in the business, because I'm out there with customers, but I kind of felt like I was working on it because I'm working on the relationship with them. I'm not like in the weeds working an issue.
Yeah, I think that's in the business.
That's in, okay.
I feel like some of that is, it's kind of like we were talking about before at the town hall meeting. If I'm talking about PTO, it feels like on the business. If we're talking about new ideas for our customers, to me that's in the business. When I'm with the employees, when I'm with our customers, if it's talking about ideating new things to do, to me that's definitely in the business.
Yeah.
That's where I want to be. I want to be in that conversation from time to time. And it's not that I think it's not well covered. It's just I enjoy doing it, and I think I'm good at it. And I think it offers different perspective than the people that are doing it every day. So I think you just need a good mix of it, is what it comes down to. And I don't know what the perfect blend is. It probably changes.
Well, it's probably different for each person too. Like you were saying, I think you were saying last night about the things that you're good at and not good at. Maybe it was today, but I've consciously tried to make an effort to spend time on things I'm better at.
Exactly.
Because why would I do the things I'm bad at?
Especially, or not as good at as the people you have that are better at it.
Right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think that's a good point. That it certainly does depend on where your strengths and weaknesses are, where you should spend your time.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is we have to spend time working on the business. That's a big part of the job.
Yeah.
And some of that cannot be delegated to anybody else. Those are the things that you just must do. And I think that's part of why you can get caught up on the business, because it's so hard to have there's so much urgency with those things that need to be done, and you can't delegate it, that eventually you just run out of time. But you got to find a way to balance that properly so that you're making time to be in the business.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't think it's an either or for me anyway in this role. In my world, it's a balance of a bit of each.
Yeah. So you want to talk about government efficiency?
Yeah, has that been in the news lately?
I think there's been a few things. Something about Doge.
Yeah.
So I don't know even where to start with all that, but where do you think that's going, and how does it? You think that's an opportunity for government contracting or not?
I do. I view it as a threat and an opportunity. I think it's a threat to the status quo, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. We need to shake up our mindset from time to time. Is it an opportunity? I think it could be. It's so hard to predict where it's going to go.
Right.
And I don't even try to predict where it's going to go. I pay attention to what's happening day to day. My advice to our teams are not to get too caught up in the swirl, because things that happen and are said one day may move the next day. I think it's a very agile and I mean this is a good thing. It's a very agile approach that they're taking to trying to do something that I do believe needs to be done. We should always be trying to find efficiencies, better ways of doing things. But I also think that the government has been doing a good job of that. I'll use OTAs as the example, other transaction authority agreement, instead of the traditional procurement processes. Over the last, 4 or 5 years, it seems, maybe longer, OTAs have really changed the way the government buys services. You don't see everything coming out as 1+4s anymore, where it's a 5-year contract without accepting that the world's probably going to change, especially in technology, over the next 5 years. So I think OTAs are an example of government, I'd say evolving, but they actually started in the 60s for the space program.
Really?
Because the space program, my understanding of this, maybe I hope I'm right about this, but the space program needed a faster procurement strategy, a more agile. We didn't use that word back then, I suspect, but to get the moonshot done, and they dusted those off and said, hey, we should be using these in this ever-changing world of technology. So I think OTAs are a good example. Tech challenges are another one. We moved from the written proposal only, that was voluminous amounts of binders and hundreds of pages of written prose for tech challenges. So I do think government has been getting better. What I think DOGE creates is the urgency to move faster, to find ways to do things in a more efficient manner, to provide better citizen services, to arm the warfighter faster. I think the area to be cautious about is that government moves slower sometimes because the impact of a misstep is so great.
Yeah.
I think in business, we talked about risks earlier in business. If you or I mess up our businesses, the impact of that failure is very different than if the government makes a big mistake.
Yeah, just a minute ago you said you wish you'd taken a few more swings early when it didn't matter as much. So even more so, right? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, in government though, I think there's some real
thousands and millions of people can be affected. And
look, certainly lives can be at risk, and
lives
on the one end of the spectrum. And a lot of the work we do, lives are not at risk, but some of it they are. So I don't think you can paint with a broad brush any of this that it's easy to do. I think it's all very difficult to do and worth doing. The enduring pursuit of perfection at AIS, we're always trying to get more perfect. We're probably not going to ever get to perfect, but we should always be trying to get more perfect. And if I were king for a day, I think was the phrase you used in the question. Easy for me to say, I'm not in that spot. But I think the shift I would take is to try to create that systemic, sustaining, enduring success where you're constantly getting incremental improvement as opposed to big bang. I think big bang in government is harder and riskier, and government has the resources to do it a little bit more methodically than most of the private sector, and they're free of the pressures of things like earnings and stock prices and bank covenants and all the things.
But we end up with what feels like, instead of incremental improvement, we've had incremental decreases in efficiency or incremental increases in spending over a long period of time. What does it look like if you're king for a day? What is the system? Do you know what the system looks like at all? Is it a law from Congress that says you're going to have to do X? I mean, what is it?
Well, I think it's a mindset. So, people talk about the increasing government debt and deficits and the spending, and I've read it both ways, and I don't know which one's right. If you think of it on a per capita basis, with inflation considerations, government really isn't getting bigger. But if you look at it just in absolute dollars, even with adjusted for inflation, of course it is. And deficits do seem to be a problem. But I also don't really understand how this alone fixes that problem. So I do think there is an issue here. It's just a very complicated problem to solve. And I fear that performative solutions are helpful because it should inspire people. So let me go back to the opportunity for a minute. I think a lot of times in government, you throw your arms up in the air and you just say, this is just how it is. It's hard to move a machine this big. Nobody else, no private sector company in America, or I think the world, has the number of employees or the dollars running through it that the federal government has. So there's really not a great model of how to do it at this scale. And I've seen this in government where you get bogged down by the process. You feel like the tyranny of cynicism kicks in. I can't change anything. The system is what it is.
Right.
If nothing else we get out of Doge is to break that mindset. Because I've done it, and our teams have done it, where you get into a situation where everybody feels like you can't change the way, and we've done it. We've had great projects that have spent a fraction of what the original idea was and gotten similar or better results and more effective technology in government. If you are someone that will push for change and be a champion of change and have the stamina and the endurance to convince others that this is not only possible, but it's better for government, you could do that. So to me, what would be most sustaining or enduring out of the efforts that the administration is putting into this would be a change in the mindset that breaks the tyranny of cynicism, that you can do it better in government. Government is not broken. It's not broken beyond repair. It's not, I mean, it succeeds at lots of things, big things. So to say it can't get better is self-fulfilling prophecy, and I hope that that's what the legacy of Doge is, that it triggers people to think differently, to be more creative, and most importantly, more courageous to try to break the mold in a safe way, where you don't endanger lives or the well-being of the citizens.
Well said.
Good, thanks.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, we solved all the world's problems.
We did.
And we
did.
still have 73% battery life in the
All right, we can just keep going drive all the way back down to DC.
Sounds good.
Oh my God, it'd kill me.
I think I'll fly.
Right, please.
From Dayton.
From Dayton.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for doing this.
This was fun. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it.
This is a good time. I feel like a good conversation, and it really, I feel like I'm living the values of AIS and the leadership principles we have and everything we talked about today. This road trip, we're learning from each other while we stop and eat the evenings out. You learn so much by getting to collaborate. So to me, that's the power of this, and living what we preach. It's a good thing.
Yeah, and you mentored me today.
And likewise.
I learned a lot, and I hope everyone else appreciates it.
Yeah, I
get
know,
something out of it.
I know a lot of what we talked about, we didn't capture on video at the rest stops and whatnot. So again, mutually beneficial relationships are the ones that we all strive to have. So
maybe we'll go pick a topic and do it again sometime.
Sounds good.
Do a little one.
All right, Bill.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
I'm Bill Williams, and I'm Failing Daily. Go to failingdaily.com, check out our content, or if you want to connect on YouTube, LinkedIn, maybe a little Twitter.